Welcome back, CGC family. Talk about beating the dead horse. Once again, some Activision Blizzard King acquisition news has hit the presses. As of this morning, it's being reported that I guess Jim Ryan and some other Sony executives went over to the EU and were spilling out, I guess, false accusations of non-parity for Call of Duty games and all this other nonsense, yada, yada, yada. You know what? We're beating a dead horse at this point. And I started this video out that way because, honestly, this just needs to be over with. One way or the other, it needs to be over with. It's ridiculous. The fact that you have an executive that's crying wolf about something that his company's been doing for the better part of a decade now. And most recently with the game like Forspoken, to quite disadvantageous extent, because, having that game for 2 years, again, I don't think it was a bad game from what I played, but clearly that shit is not going too well. That being said, what I do want to focus on is this little game right here, HiFi Rush. I've spilled in small detail how I feel about it, and I still haven't finished it yet. I am currently playing it, though. It is in my rotation. It's a pretty damn fun game and a lot deeper than I thought it would be. But I got to thinking how this game is a perfect example of the proposed promise of a Microsoft or a company like Microsoft's acquisition of a publisher. Before Bethesda was purchased by Microsoft, they were quite handily ruining a lot of their franchises. Let's see. Elder Scrolls Online launched with, and this is in the 2010s, a mandatory monthly subscription fee, if I remember correctly. And if I'm wrong, please correct me in the chat. It launched with a subscription for monthly. And it seems the only game that can get away with that now is like Final Fantasy 14. We had Wolfenstein come out with a 2-player co-op game that apparently was marred by microtransactions to the point where you really couldn't even progress in it. At least that's what people say, because of the microtransactions, or without spending money on microtransactions, let's say. You had Fallout 76, and we really don't need to go into what a debacle that game was when it first launched. Some people will say it still is. I've played it recently. It's a hell of a lot better than it was day one, but yeah, day one was a special trip to hell. And that's not to mention that they were in that spot and forced, I guess you could say, to throw in things, unnecessary things like microtransactions into traditionally single-player games, because they had to find a way to generate revenue. They were putting out games like The Evil Within and Evil Within 2, Dishonored 1 and 2, Prey. These games were not selling. It's pretty well documented that these games did not meet sales expectations, and because of that, they felt that they needed to balloon their potential earnings by throwing microtransactions into these games. And it ended up leaving a bad taste in people's mouths. One that Bethesda, honestly, even with the release of this game, still hasn't quite completely wiped out of their fan base's mouth. Like, a lot of people are still expecting some kind of bullshit to be going on with Starfield when it launches. Time will tell on that. But since being bought by Microsoft, they have published this game. And as much as people hate to hear it, they pushed back Starfield. Wouldn't it be wonderful? And I'm speaking hypothetically here because I have never seen a Bethesda game that launched minus bugs, that was polished to the nth degree. But wouldn't it be awesome if Starfield launches and you don't have some stupid ass bug like saves getting deleted, or I don't know, people walking on pallets or stairs that aren't there. And name any wacky nonsense you've seen in the Bethesda game before. And if you play the Bethesda game, I guarantee you've seen something abnormally stupid happen. Wouldn't it be awesome if a Bethesda game launched and didn't have some stupid, like, jarring or game-breaking bug in it? What if Starfield does that? And more importantly, ask yourself this question. This game right here, this game you're seeing, does Bethesda publish this game? This game right here. Do they publish this game if they're still independent in 2023? Does this game, now we've heard, if you keep up with it, we've heard that this game was being made sometime after Evil Within 2, so back in 2017. At least I believe that's around the time it was being made. Do you think this game would have been published? Because I personally recall quite a few games that Bethesda put out there that were at one E3 conference, and then maybe at another one after that, and then after that it disappeared. Remember that Battle Royale game? Geez, I need to really start keeping notes. There was a Battle Royale game, or a basically a 2-team versus game, and it was like Victorian steampunk age. There was like people with like rapier swords and chain guns, and there was like a guy that was a half robot. I think there was a samurai. All kinds of weird shit going on. It was a melting pot of just like melee and gunner range combat. That game was at like 2 Bethesda E3 events, and then it disappeared, and then whoop, it's been canceled. I don't think this game makes it past prototype if they aren't published by Microsoft and they don't have something like Game Pass to throw it in. Now, I could be completely wrong, and I'm pretty sure there's people that's called me an idiot saying that's not true right now, but think about it. I mean, from what I can tell, the game's selling pretty well, at least, for a game of this type, especially on the basis that it was shadow drop. But it's selling well. It's getting pretty good reviews. And for all intents and purposes, people seem to be enjoying it. So it's the press is liking it, the fans are liking it, and of course Microsoft's liking it because it's generating hype and revenue for them. Certainly, if you are a Game Pass subscriber, it was a pleasant surprise. On a weekend, it was essentially full of surprises because you got that, and then that rather, I'll just say, mediocre GoldenEye. Was that game always that bad? Food for thought. But yeah, man, it's just like Imagine, if you will, this Activision deal goes through. And all of those studios, and if you've played Modern Warfare 2, and you let the opening splash screen come on, literally every single damn studio that is under the Activision wing of Activision Blizzard King worked on that game. Toys for Bob, the damn platform game company, they apparently did something for the game. High Moon Studios, who worked on Destiny with Bungie. Raven Software, all of those teams did something for that game. And it's still bleeding players. It's like the suits who are in charge of it now, the guys that are trying to currently get out, went as far, from what we've heard in an interview with Tony Hawk, they went as far as to cancel the remake of like Tony Hawk 3 and 4. Now, I don't know how badly people wanted those two games remade, but the fact that if you look at Activision over the last 15, 17 years, hell, let's go all the way back to 2000. Let's go all the way back to 2000. Let's see. We got True Crime series. That's gone. We got the Vigilante 8 series. That's gone. Luxo Flux made that. They're still there. They worked on the vehicles for Modern Warfare. You've got various shooters made by Raven Software. The Hexen IP is owned by Activision as far as publishing rights, and I believe the ability to make new games in the franchise. idSoft and Microsoft only have access to the original trilogy, Hexen, Heretic, and Hexen 2. Or is it Heretic 2? I can't remember. Think about all of these IP. Prototype, that's another one. Think about all these IP that Microsoft will be able to bring back. Because it seems to me that level of financial freedom, that level of publishing freedom with something like Game Pass, where you really have, let's just say I don't want to say a zero risk ceiling for publishing a game that may not catch on, but you definitely have a lowered risk ceiling where you can drop a game on Game Pass, and at the very least, you have a potential, however many people are subscribed to Game Pass, that X amount of players might actually download your game and play it. Especially if you hype it up well enough with video, quick word of mouth. You're probably going to have a nice amount of potential players that day. Some people might even buy it. For this deal to go through, and for Microsoft to be able to free up the 9 or 10 studios that are under Activision, and for us to get more than just Crash Bandicoot and Spyro from this company from here on out, for Blizzard's IP like Warcraft and StarCraft, not World of StarCraft or World of Warcraft, because I think World of StarCraft was going to be a thing. I don't know what happened to it. Blizzard is kind of weird. But imagine those teams being freed up. You don't have to just make Overwatch anymore. You don't have to just work on World of Warcraft expansions once a year now, because it used to be more than that. But that game's clearly not where it once was. All indications from what Microsoft's doing with Bethesda shows me that at the very least Phil Spencer is keeping his promise, freeing up development time, accepting of different and new ideas, basically letting the developers rock and do what they want to do, and not necessarily to the extent where they just have free range to make whatever the hell they want, but certainly giving them a chance to try something other than old hat. I think it would be amazing if those 10 teams had the ability to step away from Call of Duty, and maybe Call of Duty only comes out once every 2 years. It certainly needs to slow down. How many theaters of war have we seen at this point? How many times can you do World War II? Or put on jetpacks? Or do modern boots on the ground? At some point, the well's going to dry up, and if you listen to my video where I discussed Call of Duty's numbers, the well is currently drying the fuck up. It's time for Call of Duty to slow down. And I say it's certainly time for this deal to just go ahead and happen. Because there's a bunch of creative people working at Activision who don't want to work on Call of Duty. I'm almost positive that's the case. I bet you there's a bunch of people who have a bunch of ideas, and they're looking at that HiFi Rush. Apparently, this guy had worked on several games before. I think this is the first game they let him lead. Do you think that happens if he's just working at Bethesda, that's its own independent thing, and just out there floating? Probably not. Look, man, if Microsoft's going to actually honor what they say, let these developers try different things, try new things, I'm all for it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm not going to talk about this acquisition deal, because I'm not going to lie to you. This is literally the most corporate fuck shit I've ever seen at one particular time. Like, you couldn't find more corporate fuck shit in an 80s movie about Wall Street. This is crazy. Lies, deceit, scowling faces at video wars. We saw you, Phil Spencer. We know you was pissed. We understand. It's been interesting, man. Hopefully it'll be over by June. Sony need to go ahead and bite the bullet. Get their own damn SOCON ready. Bring back Resistance. Bring back Killzone. Make them better this time. Stop bitching about Call of Duty. It's going to be dead in a few years anyway. That's my opinion. But, yeah, man. I would love to see all of those teams and those creators have more freedom. And I think, Microsoft right now is the best place for them. They're letting Bethesda do all of this stuff, delay a game. Now, again, if Starfield come out and it's a buggy mess, that's a whole nother conversation. How the hell do you pull that off? But HiFi Rush is a damn good implication. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think. Like, comment, subscribe if you feel so inclined. Or dislike if you didn't like the video. Tell me how much of an idiot I am or how much you agree in the comments. And I will holler at you guys in the next video.